Hi everyone, Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, joined here by re-recording mixer Cyril Holtz from Emilia Pérez. Cyril, something that really I think stood out to me in the sound design of the songs in this film is that they often contain organic elements like the clomping of shoes or hitting of a dinner table, which feel like they're an additional instrument in the orchestration. So, can you elaborate how you kind of wove those type of organic elements into the overall soundscape?
Yeah, actually, one of the words Jacques used the most during post-production was movement. So it reminded me a scene from Romain Gary's novel called The Kites, where the main character, during his philosophy exam, is questioned by an examiner who asked him to define grace, but just in one word. And grace, I mean, in the sense of beauty. And his answer is movement. That idea, grace as a movement, perfectly captures the essence of what we tried to achieve in Emilia Perez. Uh, we worked really hard to make the voices, especially in the songs, feel lively and full of motion. And similarly, the environment needed to be as rich and sometimes as unpredictable as it is in a city like Mexico, where hundreds of sound blend together to create an incredible polyphony. And because it's also from this erratic movement that emotion can sometimes emerge. So we did as much as possible to blend all those sound sources and to create, as you said, a boiling market, for example, with many sound elements.
Yeah. And I think as far as the singing is concerned, I think I'm correct. There was both live singing and some studio recording for the songs. What challenge is that when you have to kind of combine things or find a unified sound within that?
I have something to share with you about that. Recently, I read a review of Emilia Perez, which, let's be honest, wasn't exactly positive. The critic was disappointed by the fact that today's musicals have a tendency to use live singing performances by actors during shooting instead of properly re-recorded voices in a studio.
Mhm.
He mentioned that he was that this was something he didn't like about Emilia Perez. He thought the voices sounded too live during
Mm.
the songs. Uh, Erwan Kerzanet, who was the production sound mixer, did his best to record the songs on set as effectively as possible. This involved dozens of earpieces for the dancers and complex management of the playback. He had to work with many constraints, and he did an outstanding job. But in reality, most of the vocal sources we used in Emilia Perez were actually recorded in a studio,
Mm.
either before filming as playback tracks or afterwards in music or ADR session. So in a way, it was a very satisfying bad review because it proved we achieved that part of our mission to mix all those different voice sources.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think this musical doesn't play out like kind of what we think of as a standard musical. It flows in and out of dialogue and song in the same moment. They can be speaking into singing. And what is it like working with that to kind of because the speaking and the singing almost has the same texture to it, I would say. Was that a challenge for you?
Yeah, it was one of those first topic we talked with Jacques. Jacques is a man of very few words, you know. However, he has a way of planting seeds with just a few keywords. Uh, letting them grow in his team's minds as the creative process unfolds. But one of those words was musical drama instead of comedy musical, as we say in French. And he said recently in an interview that he wasn't a big fan of classic musicals. Uh, and I'm not sure I am either. So I know it might sound like a bad starting point, but at least it was a blank territory for all of us, and it allowed us to reconsider every aspect of the genre. Uh, so the thing we took a very concrete approach as we went along, trying to understand what was at stake on the film. And the first thing I think is that it's built on the idea of pushing boundaries, you know, whether in terms of storytelling, character development, and the sound follows the same approach. Pushing boundaries is sometimes about dissolving them. And that's what we tried to do. One of the primary goals was then to create a completely organic, sonic, musical fabric where each sound element belonged to a cohesive whole. Um, so there's something very strange about musicals, to answer more precisely to your question. The characters have a normal conversation, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, they break into song. It's completely unexpected and honestly a bit unsettling. So we aim to ensure that the musical comedy genre did not appear obvious and did not involve a brutal and systematic transition between spoken dialogues to song mode. Instead, we wanted the transition to be as fluid and as natural as possible, unless a sharp break served the direction.
Yeah, there's I think the sound design supports the kind of magical realism of this film. I would say one of my favorite scenes is when Rita, Zoe's character, puts together that the woman sitting next to her at dinner is, you know, the cartel boss that she formerly worked for. The room goes black and the sound is almost like we're sucked into a bubble of sorts. Can you walk us through the creation of the audio for that moment?
Yeah, this is one of those moments where Jacques' vision empowered our sound conception because it was clear on the picture itself. The lights shut down, and this is one of those switching moments where you have to feel the fear of Rita discovering that she has Manitas in front of her, and it was kind of easy because we have so few elements. We have just a kind of a ringing tone that for the light switching off, and we slide slowly into the music, and this is one of those moments where we worked a lot to make the transition as fluid as possible.
Mm. And it's not your first time working with Jacques either. Did that pre-existing history together? I know you said he's a man of few words, so did it make it easy to kind of understand him on here? How did that help?
Yeah, I had the privilege of collaborating with Jacques since Read My Lips. It's a film from the early 2000s. And that film taught me just how important it is to share a common sense of feeling with a director, and also marked a key step in my understanding of my craft. Working with Jacques he has a quite unique way of working with his collaborators. He starts by sharing his vision, but he does so in an open-ended way that leaves plenty of room for interpretations. This approach doesn't constrain our creative choices. Instead, it offers a great deal of freedom. It's both liberating and a bit daunting because with great freedom comes obviously great responsibility. So we have to meet high standards, but we also encourage to explore bold ideas without hesitation, even if it means rethinking and refining them multiple times until we find the right path.
Well, I think the high standards were met on this one. It's fantastic work, Cyril, on Emilia
Thank you
Pérez,
very
and
much.
thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much.